Hi, this is Sam, and I'm at QuiltCon 25. We're on the last day here. And Karen Bolan is here to talk about her quilt, which is Relax, and it's in the improvisation category. So, talk to me about this. I don't have an improv bone in my body, so I'm always very fascinated by people who take on the improv category and how you start with your concept and build it. And it's like, how did it happen?
How did it happen? Well, actually, it's kind of funny that you talk about not having an improv bone. I have like a very meticulous, my background is in engineering. I have a really meticulous side, and then I like break away from that. And I kind of flip flop back and forth, and I rarely do both in the same quilt. So this one actually started with a process that I was trying to be very meticulous about. I had this like really complex design, and I wanted to do all of these cool curves, and I was trying to get the figure up on my design wall, and I was using yarn to kind of trace it out to make sure that everything was going to be the same proportion moving from my sketch to the design wall, and the yarn kept falling off the wall because that's not really what it's for.
Yeah.
So I started pinning it up so it would not fall down, but it kept falling down, and it was hanging between each of the pins that I had put in the wall.
Which makes a catenary curve.
I didn't really know what catenary curves were called at the time, but I was like, you know what? This is fighting with me, and I actually kind of like this hanging feeling a whole lot better. So I started working with that, and I reconfigured what I wanted to do. I was allowing these to hang and kind of playing with where they were connecting and where they were hanging. So like, it started with that meticulous process, but then changed to very much improvised. And every step along the way forced me to remember to improvise and to relax. Let it be part of the boss of this process, not just me. Because anytime I tried to force anything on this, it didn't work.
Wow, that's really interesting. Like to sort of surrender the control of it. I can imagine that would be a really big challenge.
So after I learned, because I was like, oh, these look like parabolas. Are they parabolas? I look up what is the shape that anything makes, and I learned that it's catenary curve. It's not technically a parabola, it's a hyperbolic shape, and it's literal relaxation. This is the natural shape that something gets into if you let it just hang under its own weight.
Yeah.
And the more I thought about that, the more I felt like this was how it was supposed to be. Like, I also wanted these to be solid fabric pieces, just like several large fabric pieces, but I didn't feel like going shopping, and I didn't have anything big enough to fit in any of these spaces. So the plan that I had was breaking down, so I ended up starting to rip fabric and place it on the wall. And these stripes emerged because of that. And then I really liked that contrast between like trying to hold yourself up and trying to relax. So it's like every part of that process. That's another example in this quilt. It's just like forcing me.
That's great
to remember.
And I'm looking at the quilting design too, and this looks hand guided.
Yes, hand guided on my long arm. It's a Gamble Classic. I don't have any bells and whistles. Like, even my needle down button is broken, so like when I have to pause, I have to just be like really careful and not touch it so it doesn't move around on me. But yeah, I actually started quilting it like from this direction, and not very far through, other stuff was happening in life, and I had to take it off the machine. And like, it sat folded up for pretty much a year while I waited to finish it. Then last summer, I was invited to do a group show with 2 other people in my hometown, and I tried to finish a lot of quilts. So I finished 14 quilts, and this is one of them. This was like the most important one that I like needed to get finished, because I wanted this to be seen, not just folded up underneath my long arm with everything else that I hadn't finished. And by the time I got down to the bottom, I turned my long arm up to 100 for the very first time, and I was quilting as fast as I possibly could. And it was very freeing. Like, I really liked it. I might do that more often.
Okay. It sounds like it taught you a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Are you interested in taking any of those techniques any further?
Absolutely. So I love this shape. I want to keep playing with that.
Yeah.
I didn't really plan out how I was doing it. So as I had these yarns on the wall, then I had to put my fabric on top of them and try to trace the shape, and I could actually like feel through the fabric to get the shape of the yarn. But I think there's maybe a better way to do that, more efficient, maybe less prone for little wiggles and wobbles. So I'd like to experiment more with that. It was a lot of fun ripping fabric. Definitely want to do more of that.
Okay. Right. Thanks for coming and talking about your quilt. Where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me on my website, KarenBolan.com. I tried to make that easy if you can remember my name. I design patterns occasionally, and mostly I'm teaching and lecturing for quilt guilds. You can find me on Instagram, Karen.Bolan.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.